I feel very privileged because I had no idea, like Stanford asked me to do this like a month ago. And
Oh,
I had
cool.
no idea that I'd be meeting with people that are so prolific. And I was just like, holy crap. So like this is I'm really, really honored to be able to do this. And Stanford has
Oh,
asked
cool.
me to just do a little interview with each person for a few minutes. I have a couple of questions that I have
Okay.
generated based off the work that you sent me.
Oh, cool.
But and I just want to say, like I said, I'm being introduced to a lot of people's work for the first time because I do a lot of like digital media, but not so much comics. So this is all very new for me.
Ah, okay.
But it's
Hmm.
amazing. Like I was reading through, I was like looking through that stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this is dope. When I was like reading
Thanks.
through it, so super cool. So yeah, first off,
Thank
let me
you.
just say, huge fan. But
Nice. I appreciate it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, like I said, I just had a few questions, and like I said, anything that you want to discuss, I'm happy to do so. But the first thing I actually wanted to ask, it is just because I don't know what they are. So I just wanted to say that I am in awe of anybody that has their own Wikipedia page. And
Wow.
I was like, anybody that has a Wikipedia page, in my opinion, has like made it. So like, I was like reading through your Wikipedia page, and it said that like you do a lot of work with zines, and I don't even know what a zine is. So I was like, can
So
you explain to me
for
what that
sure.
is, why that appeals to you in particular?
Definitely. It's so funny about the Wikipedia page because I was shocked when I found it. I stumbled upon it. I Googled myself for something. I was looking for a photo. And I guess there's a class, I think in Arkansas, or a comics, a black women in comics class at a university that wanted to give more limelight to black women who do comics. And so they created the Wikipedia page because I've been so embarrassed by it. Because I'm like, I did not create that page. So that class at the university made the page, and they've actually been updating it. But to
Right.
answer your question, zines are just small, independently made magazines. So zine short for magazine. And so typically they were like back in the punk rock days, they would do rock zines or punk rock zines, and normally they would be slapped together quick, Xerox copied fanzines for music. And so it sort of branched out now into any topic. And so they're just little kind of almost like chapbooks, poetry chapbooks,
Okay,
but
yeah.
they're for whatever topic you want to talk about. I do a lot of zines or personal zines. So I talk about my mental health, physical health. I talk about trauma. I talk about microaggressions and racial bias a lot. And I just started doing that over the last 3 or 4 years. But zines are wonderful. It's a great community. It's mostly street art or lowbrow, quote unquote, lowbrow art that is put into these little magazines, and it's a great community of creative people who are mostly underrepresented voices, not always, but
Hmm.
in most cases either talking about subject matter that isn't that high, that highly regarded or popular, some, or earlier new emerging artists in the zine and comics world, artists who like, just want to do independent things that don't, aren't into superheroes or aren't into Comic Con type things. And
Right.
so that's what appeals to me, is that you can publish your own stuff, you can tell your own stories, you can do slice of life type of comics, or even the topics you can talk about. People have recipe zines, people have zines about online dating, people
Oh
have
wow.
zines
Okay.
about, yeah, people have zines. I like I said, I have zines about my health, or you can do
Right.
zines about education, and it's just a plethora of subject matter. You can just do whatever you want, and you meet a lot of really really cool people and genuine people who aren't making stuff just, for money or just
Yeah, I was gonna
for
say. I mean, when you
clout.
said that it's not for comics, I was just like, I could imagine. I guess taking a comic format and then applying it toward like real life
Definitely.
would be really cool. So I can definitely understand the attraction to that.
And
I
it's
was
not always. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not always art. It's sometimes it's all text. It's all words. It's
right.
whatever you make it. So
Yeah, I mean, like it's not. I mean, literally. I mean, I do a lot of work in multimodality, so that very much appeals to me. The idea that you can just literally kind of stitch together whatever you want, and that there's an
yep,
audience for it is really great.
it's
I would say,
awesome.
according to the Wikipedia page, which makes you a superstar. I guess they say that your most known work is nothing good. Nothing good happens after or at 4 a.m., which I love that title. I was
Oh,
like,
sweet.
why is this not a Netflix series? Like the title alone deserves to be like a Netflix series. Um, and I was at first I was like, wait, is this? I was like, oh, this is about sex, and I was like, wait, no, it's definitely not about sex. Like, okay, never mind. But I was reading through the synopsis, and it says that the outline says that it's about a zombie apocalypse that takes place in Oakland, California. Now, as is similarly, Octavia Butler, who I love, her most famous work is about an apocalypse that takes place in Southern California. So my
Right.
question is, what is it about Blackness, California, and apocalypses that like appeal to y'all? And like, do you feel any kinship with like the work that Octavia was doing, or like Butler's, like any of her work?
Definitely a huge Octavia Butler fan, and I really didn't think about the California connection so much. But I think one thing that really and I'm just, guessing, is that in California, there's such a wide disparity of incomes that can live bumped up to the neck and juxtaposed to each other. So
Mhm.
you can have one block where it's super, super wealthy, and then you go another block and it's people, living in tents and
Right.
sleeping bags. And so I think a lot of times you can feel like if you've ever been to LA or if you've been to downtown Oakland, that you're in this dystopian landscape. And so it's really, I don't know if inspiring is the correct term, but it definitely lets you run with your imagination. And one of the main themes in my comic is just plays on, like, I'm a huge George Romero fan, and he
Hmm.
talks a lot about consumerism and
Yes.
eating ourselves. And one thing that I really love is the idea that we are worker bees and we're just drones, and so that we're just working ourselves to death. And so that's one of the main themes in my comic, is that you can work so hard and you're still at the bottom of the barrel, quote unquote, so to speak.
Right.
And so what do you do when everything else collapses and you've already hit rock bottom, and what do you do when everything
Right.
else collapses?
I mean, a part of
So
me feels like, I feel like, especially after the wake of the '08 collapse, there's been a lot of interest in this topic of like, I mean, you don't even have to go that far. Parasite
right,
won the Oscars last year, and I don't know if you've ever seen
right,
it, but it's fantastic, and it's basically
yeah,
about that. I
yeah.
was telling my dad, we see a lot of international movies. I love international film, and
Hmm.
usually I have never in my life seen poverty depicted in the modern day Asian like like situation. Typically, like when I see poverty in like Asian films, it's historical. And
Mm,
it's always in like the feudal era, or like, it's like far, far, far
right.
away removed, because general Japan is typically very wealthy and like well to do. So like I had never, I mean, Parasite, the concept of Parasite was so foreign to me that I was just like, and that's why that movie, I mean, I think it struck a lot of nerves with a lot of people, because it was like, it wasn't even poverty, like it was like two levels below that.
Interesting. I think maybe because I live in California, that I live right next to Chinatown, and so I see Asian poverty a lot, and I've grown up
Yeah.
with poor Asian people. And it's interesting that you say that. I've met some other folks who've never seen that either, and it's probably just based on,
Where you
like you
live.
said, where you live and what you've been exposed to. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like in America, the Asian community is known as like it's a model
uh
minority.
huh.
It's, yeah, they call it, that's like, it's like a positive, it's a positive toxic trait of like the model minority myth, that like every Asian that comes here is like super successful and like really well to do, because they all do school so well. They're all like really intelligent, and like it's like a,
And there's a lot of pushback against it. Like I
of
said,
course.
growing up, and friends, that my brothers and I grew up with, they push back against that because they aren't necessarily well to do. They aren't
Absolutely. My friend,
necessarily.
my friend Jen, she was like, I hate math. And we literally looked at her and we were just like, what? Like I'd never
Right.
seen like a person that she's like, I hate math, I'm terrible at it. And I was like, that can't be. It
Right.
was just like that's
Right.
impossible. So but no,
That's
I
it's such a toxic stereotype, but that's their lived reality where people go up to them. They're not in IT, but everyone in the office goes ask them how to work the computer.
right. It's very, very strange.
Like, come on now.
Yeah.
That's the
Like
equivalent of going up to both of us and asking us how to slam dunk.
right.
Like, because we're black, we know how to play basketball.
I was gonna say, considering that
Okay,
I've never walked, I would not be able to tell you in the
but
slightest.
it's the same equivalent though. It's like amazing when you think about it. Like, yeah, why are they coming to you? Like, what a stereotype, weird racial profiling is that? Like,
It's
oh,
true. I was
you
gonna
know,
ask, so like one of the things that I really enjoy, like looking at the slides that you sent me, I don't know, I just say like 4 a.m. in parentheses because that's like the shorthand. But when I was looking at like the physicality of 4 a.m., I love how specific and meticulous that artwork is. Like people on the Wikipedia page said that like you do a lot of your work in black and white. And like I was
mm-hmm.
looking at those pages and I was like, it looks like it takes forever to do a page. Like it just it's very like specific and detailed. And so I was wondering, as opposed to the traditional mediums of like comics and the way that they usually look, it doesn't look like any comic I've seen. So I was wondering, like, why do you choose to present it without things like standard border lines or traditional speech boxes? And also, I wanted to ask, how do you choose what gets colored and what doesn't?
I think the main thing that it was, first of all, it was purely out of ignorance, and then it did become a style choice as I started looking at other independent artists that some people didn't do any text, any words, any they did abstract comics, or artists who did strictly painted comics, or artists that did, like you said, non-traditional border boxes, or thought bubbles. And I just continued it because it felt more organic and I was comfortable with it, and I felt like it just, the whole page could become a piece of art rather than just a comics page. And
Hmm.
so I looked at it as more of just art instead of comics.
No,
So then,
that
yeah.
makes total sense. Like, I mean, like I said, it's stunningly beautiful to look at. But I literally was just like, this is really like, I literally was like, it's so detailed. I have no idea. Like,
Oh,
I was
cool.
like, is it supposed to be a comic page or like is it like a piece of artwork? Um,
And I also don't color traditionally just because um it's expensive, number one, to reproduce, but then also I think you can create certain moods with black and white, and I do enjoy doing ink work, and you can create certain moods with just black and white.
well,
So
considering your love
that's
for
kind
Romero, that makes a lot of sense.
of
I was gonna ask, did you I was noticing like as I was scrolling down, was it like a ridiculously epic sense of accomplishment to be in a collaboration with a book with Christopher Priest and Henry Louis Gates?
Oh, of course. I met Henry Louis Gates several years ago when I was in college, and just meeting him was really crazy too. Um,
I
we were
feel like
in
he
a
would be like
conference.
Rafiki in The Lion King, like just like the shaman.
Yeah, it was odd. I met a lot of um uh more experienced, seasoned artists because I did a conference in Paris, black, and I got like I guess you call it a scholarship to go to this conference. And when I was in school, and so there are so many of the people that I admired at the conference, and he was one of them. But yeah, just to be included in any way, shape, or form with most of the artists that are in the books that
Right.
I'm in, I'm still in awe and just like fangirl out. So
Yeah, I saw that and I was scrolling through and I was like, wait, Christopher Priest and Henry Louis get what?
it's
Wow.
amazing. Such a blessing. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, I only have one last question, but I wanted to ask that the Wikipedia page says that you enjoy working on self-published comics because of the ability to meet face to face with the people who your work goes out to.
Hmm.
So in the pandemic, I imagine that has become really difficult. So how do you
Hmm.
sustain that kind of energy? And like, I'm assuming it's a lot harder now. And so like, what are you looking to like, how are you looking to do it now? Or like, what are the next steps that you're going taking forward?
That's an awesome question. I think because well, we've almost got a year. So I also organize Zine Fest. So zines typically have Zine Fest all over the country in different cities, and so I've traveled extensively and on the West Coast, but didn't necessarily get a chance to travel too much to the East Coast, just a little bit. But I have met people online, and so now that we were in shelter in place, I was able to connect digitally with people, and so just doing Zoom calls and like I said, organizing. I'm on the organizing team for San Francisco Zine Fest, so I met quite a few people that way. And so I have my own tiny little zine fest called Oakland Creates. In fact, I just started a YouTube channel, and this year I had the it's was year this is the fifth year, 6 years, sixth year of doing it. And so everybody was given an interview. I interviewed all the people that were tabling, and the whole show was virtual. And San Francisco Zine Fest, that show was virtual. So you can reach out digitally with people. And many of the in person shows just pivoted and did digital shows. And
Right.
still, so I still able to connect with people. It was just in a digital space. And so by putting on my own show too, I was able to have a little bit more control and reach out and talk to people and have that same sense of community online. And so that's what I've been doing, and a lot of people have been doing to maintain that in person
Right.
sort of experience. And so, yeah, it'd be great if people would go to Oakland Creates YouTube channel and our webpage and kind of take a look there, but also San Francisco Zine Fest. We're gonna start planning for our Zine Fest in September, and my Zine Fest is typically in December. So just maintaining those relationships
Right.
online has been one way to do it, and it's been great. Just connecting with people on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So I have all those platforms, but mostly YouTube. Just reaching out to people and talking to them and interviewing them. I have quite a few interviews lined up that I want to do with people, and just that truly is the main um, joy and love in doing comics and zines anyway, is to talk to people and have that relationship. So whether you're doing it in person or right now via Zoom, is what I really enjoy. So
No, that's, I mean, that's great. Like, I think that, I mean, obviously, that's the most important part about the work that you're doing is that obviously, I mean, these days more than ever, I think people are starting to realize the value of art because Lord knows
mm,
if we did not have Netflix, our country would have burned down
to the
probably
ground,
in the first 6 months.
right? That's real.
So, I do think that's part of the reason why the world is, like when everybody's making a budget, they always carve out like $100 billion for arts, because they understand that people still need to produce it and create it, especially in this time when it's a lot harder to come by. So, I think that's awesome. I'm glad that people have a place that they can go. And like I said, for the listeners and the watchers of this, you can go to Oakland Creates to check out a lot of the work that is it Avy or Avi?
Avy.
Avy
Yeah,
that Avy is talking about. You can certainly go there and check out her Instagram pages and the social media presence. So before I
definitely.
end this, are there other ways that people can find you, or is that the
I
best
was
way?
just gonna say, definitely go to my comic book website, Nuthin Good at 4.com is the comic the zombie comic book, you can find me at Nuthin Good at 4 on Instagram and Twitter. So that's NUTHIN good at the number 4. So NUTHIN GOODAT the number 4. And that's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then Oakland Creates is just all one word, Oakland Creates, on YouTube and on Twitter and Instagram as well. And gosh, I taking submissions for my Zine Fest library as well. So if people make comics and zines, they can contact me at oaklandcreates@gmail.com. And I'll end up reviewing your zine or your comic on the YouTube channel down the line. I really want to grow that space and give people the opportunity to showcase their work, primarily giving space to Black and Brown people and other underrepresented voices, women, queer folks, and people who just have something to say that we don't normally get to hear. And that's why I started creating, is because I didn't see any comic books or artwork that prioritize Black people and Black women in particular, and specifically brown skinned people. And people, like you said, people in wheelchairs or hearing disabilities or visually impaired, just something that is just real in the world that we pretend like doesn't exist or we want to shove to the side. But everybody needs a space and a voice, and we're here to uplift that at Oakland Creates and through my platforms. And so I'm really grateful and thank you for this opportunity to talk to me. And yeah, feel free to shout out, DM me, even if someone has a question or just want to chat. We're definitely about building that community. So I
Sure.
look forward to hearing from people.
For sure. Thank you so much. This has been really, really great. I really appreciate
Cool. Thank you so much. I enjoyed myself.
it. Thanks. Hold on one
Thank
second.
you.
Okay, so